morning, Matt Salmon.
Good morning. How are you?
Filling in for Mike today. It's nice to see you sitting in that chair.
Well, you know what? I can't feel it like Mike does.
Well, I don't know if you have the biceps or not. You don't wear those tight T-shirts like he does. So
He definitely has the guns.
he does. Well, it's nice to see you this morning.
All right. Nice to be here. And thank you and good morning. This is a day that will go down in infamy for many, 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 many years to come. This is 9/11. And Jan Brewer, former governor of Arizona and a dear friend of mine, is on the line with us. How are you, Governor?
Oh, good morning, Matt. I'm doing fine.
Yeah. What do you remember about 9/11? What were you doing when the towers were attacked?
I remember it so vividly. I was at Banner Samaritan Hospital standing and waiting for a cardiology test examination early in the morning, and there was a TV there. And we're sitting there, about 5 or 6 people, and we saw the tower hit. And I stood up and I looked at it, and I just stood there kind of paralyzed, and people were kind of murmuring, amongst their heads. And finally I said, that's got to be a terror attack. And we just stood there paralyzed. And then it fell, and then I was called in, and I was talking to my cardiologist, and when I got out, it was all over the news. It was just so horrible. We knew that America had been terrorized. It was an awful day.
It was numbing. I remember what I was doing. I was actually on working out at the gym, and I was on the treadmill when I watched it. And I thought it was one of those crazy reality shows or something at first, and then when people started talking about the devastation and that it was a likely terror attack, I couldn't even believe that was happening on American soil.
It was just shocking. It's just absolutely shocking. And I saw a bit of the memorial today with the families talking and the grandchildren talking about their grandfathers and stuff. And to have that kind of an impact for so long of living people in regards to that, God bless America is all I can say.
I agree. Jan, did you get a chance to watch the debate last night?
Oh, you bet.
And what'd you think?
Absolutely bet. Well,
what were your impressions?
I thought it was interesting, and I thought that Kamala did a lot better than we all expected her to do. And I was a little bit disappointed in Donald that he was angry and scowling. That I don't think showed very well. But and I know, and most people know, that debates really don't change a lot of people in their opinions. And I wish that he would have talked more about policy. I thought that on that it would have been a hit, a big hit for him. But he's not running against Biden. He should have taken Kamala on with her record. And then, Matt, you know this. We've known each other for a long time and served together, and we know our party sometimes is crazy. But what are we doing talking about immigrants eating kittens? That's just nuts. I mean, we need to talk about policy.
I don't know. It sounded like maybe a segue to what the vice president picked for Trump was talking about cat ladies. Maybe, trying to get them on board. I don't know.
I don't know.
When I heard that, I just literally just started laughing out loud. My wife was watching it with me, and I could not contain myself. It just sounds so ludicrous. And to have somebody, who has been the president of the United States bring up something like that, it was embarrassing.
I know, it really is. And is that the best political statement that we can make to motivate undecided voters to vote for GOP candidates? My God.
But neither one of the candidates talked at all about policy last night, and that was really, really frustrating to me. One of the frustrating things to me personally is neither one of the candidates, and shame on the moderators too, didn't even ask the question about our crushing national debt.
Oh, I know. You remember when we used to have it on the TV and it would go click, 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 and then everybody was talking about it? Not anymore. It's just bygone. Just spend. No restraint. No restraint.
And anybody who's taken a class in economics, even in the basic class in economics, understands when the spending gets to a point where the Federal Reserve just has to print money to pay our debts, that ends up causing the dollar value of the dollar to drop and goods and services to cost more. That's probably the biggest reason we're dealing with inflation. The inflation we're dealing with today, in my view.
Well, you're right. You're absolutely right, and it's something that our kids certainly don't understand. I mean, they don't know anything about economics. They don't know anything about inflation. They don't understand anything about the deficit because nobody's talking about any of that.
Yeah, it's a real travesty that they didn't cover that last night. So you and I are on the board of a group called the Defend Democracy Project. Can you tell us just a little about that and what the goals that the group has and what they're trying to accomplish?
Well, we truly believe that we live in a democracy and we have to defend it. And we were concerned about people not understanding how elections are run. And, there are always hiccups, but it's important that we get the word out there that they can trust our elections and that we've got great people working in elections and they're nonpartisan. We've got checks and balances. And yes, there are hiccups, but it's not happening in the amount of numbers that are going to make any difference in the election. And signatures are verified in Arizona in order to vote. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So we're trying to inform the public that they need to vote. They need to vote by mail or they can vote in person. They can put it in a drop box and it's going to be okay. It's going to be safe. And now we see people kind of joining that bandwagon. And I take a lot of pride in thinking that the Republicans now are not, like they were way back when the last election, they said it was stolen. I've kind of backed off and saying that mail-in balloting is okay.
Absolutely. And you have extra credibility on this issue because you, before you were governor, were Secretary of State, and your prime responsibility was to oversee Arizona's elections.
Right. I was a chief election officer, and I worked with all the county recorders, and I wrote the procedures manual, and we did the LNA testing on the equipment. And I was just so impressed and amazed. I'd always knew a little bit about it because I'd worked at the county. Before that, I was the chairman of the board of Maricopa County Supervisors, and saw, elections and worked with Ellen Purcell, et cetera. But once I became Secretary of State, doing it, in our office, it just amazed me how diligent and how hardworking the people that actually do the election works are. And they've been there a long time. They've got credibility. I mean, they're not just here one day or next election. They've been there for years, most of them.
Absolutely. Well, we only have just about 50 seconds left, Governor, but one of our dear friends, mine and your dear friends, Chuck Coughlin, made the comment that there really isn't a Republican Party in Arizona anymore and that the de facto party has become Turning Point USA. What do you think about that?
Well, our party, we don't seem to have a platform that we all knew as we were growing up. And when we started running for election, it doesn't seem like our platform's there anymore. But I think we got to work hard, stay in there, fight the good fight, and remind people what Republicans are all about and what it is they need to do to bring our party back to the good old days, the good old grand old party. And it's up to us. Every registered Republican needs to remember what we stand for and what our platform is.
We need a feisty spokesman like you again.
We can join hands. We could go on a tour.
Oh, Governor, it's such a pleasure to have you on. I know I get to see a bit more of you lately, and that's been a wonderful thing in my life. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you, Matt. Have a great day.
Thanks, Governor.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.